Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Americanish. My name is Adela Kochav.
And I'm Mariam and we are the Daughters of Diaspora.
So right now, Passover is coming up. And Passover is when the Jews celebrate the Exodus from Egypt with a 3-hour, very long and drawn-out dinner that has a lot of very weird and fun traditions. But this is also the time where I walk into Duane Reade and I see baskets everywhere full of bunnies and little ducks and pastel colors. And I know that Easter is coming up. So what is Easter and what is with the bunnies?
Great question. So we don't like to get too theological here on Americanish, at least not intentionally. But Easter is the Christian celebration of the resurrection of Jesus after he was crucified on the cross, buried for 3 days, and then rose from the dead on that third day. And Christians, Copts, celebrate the resurrection of Christ and his ascension into the heavens as kind of the beginning of the new year for Christians.
Okay, so beginning of new life, bunnies reproduce.
Yes, bunnies. Let me answer your bunnies question. So bunnies is not... I did some Googling because I really wanted to get to the root of this, and bunnies were not traditionally associated with Easter or the resurrection, but it was around the 19th century where this connection started to form, and bunnies, as we know, like to have lots of babies, and they have kids, and they kind of serve as a pop cultural reference for fertility and new life and just, virility. Might be the word. So bunnies and Easter kind of became intertwined, and that's why you have bunnies and eggs and coloring and the pastels. So there's more. There's a few different theories, but that's the one I'm going with. There's also one about a Greek god of fertility that was a bunny, and there's different theories about where that connection comes from.
So it seems like bunnies aren't really the central part of Coptic Easter. It doesn't really factor in there. So what is Coptic Easter like?
Right. So to my knowledge, bunnies are not really associated with Coptic Easter. I don't remember any bunnies when I was growing up in Egypt, and it's not really in... I remember bunnies, like actual bunnies. There we had bunnies, but not Easter bunnies. So there wasn't that close of a connection as there is with American Easter and bunnies. But Coptic Easter celebrates essentially the same thing. We are Christians, and we celebrate the resurrection of Christ. Our traditions and the things that we do around Easter are a bit different. Copts love to fast, and our fasts are a little bit different. So this specific fast is complete vegan, so you give up all animal byproducts, including fish and seafood. So this one's a little rough, and it's, I believe, 55 days.
Oh, wow.
Leading up to Easter, you give up those earthly desires for 55 days, and around Christmas it's 40 days. That one you're allowed to have fish, so there's a little bit more leniency. But in the Coptic tradition, there is a lot of fasting. I believe somebody did the math, and between the big ones and the small ones, there's a 3-day fast here and there, and you're supposed to fast Wednesdays and Fridays, no fish, no animal products. You end up fasting about 3/4 of the year, where you are basically a vegan and give up all those animal products. I, as much as I hate to admit it, don't observe all of them. I try my very, very best to observe as many of the Coptic fasts as I can. Sometimes it's really hard when I'm traveling for work or just trying to balance life with it. And I'm Coptic-ish when it comes to the fasting. I'll try my best, but no promises were made.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't realize it was going to be a 55-day fast. In Judaism, we have fasts. We have 7 fasts, a couple major, a couple minor. We have some optional or specific fasts. Like in Passover, we have the fast of the firstborn. So right. My brother, my mom, they'll be fasting. I'll be eating. I'm a second-born child. If there's ever a privilege that came with being a second-born child, I don't fast the fast of the firstborn. But now I'm seeing a parallel between Lent and Ramadan and Coptic Easter fasting. I guess I lucked out in the Abrahamic faiths because we don't have any long-term fast days. We don't have any 50-day fasts or 40-day fasts. We just have to suffer for 7 days.
I mean, you win some, you lose some. What can you say?
Win some, you lose some. Well, I mean, I guess technically we give up leavened products and breads in Passover. And, most Orthodox Jews and modern Orthodox Jews will completely clean out their entire kitchens. They'll boil their countertops or cover it all in tinfoil. And even things like, something like shampoo, which obviously you're not eating. If it has wheat in it, some opinions will say you should get a different shampoo. It's crazy. Like, you're not eating it. That's like a separate point altogether. But things that, you would expect to be able to eat, like even like a solid chocolate bar, which doesn't have any wheat products in it. If it's not kosher for Passover, modern Orthodox and Orthodox Jews won't eat it unless it has a specific designation as kosher for Passover.
Right.
So when you meet modern Orthodox Jews and they say, oh, it's Passover, I can't eat this, it's not like, oh, well, can't you just eat matzah? We eat matzah, but we also don't eat pretty much almost anything else except for like vegetables and all the kosher for Passover foods, which I think is actually longer conversation, economic, and there's, the Jewish tradition of you have to buy this thing that's specifically kosher for Passover when you can get the equivalent that would have not been kosher for Passover but doesn't have those products. But that's a different conversation.
I actually have a quick question for you, and I might be way off here, but is this the Jewish holiday where some people you have to sell all your food or your belongings to a goyim?
Yes. So in Passover, we're not allowed to own any chametz, which are the leavened products. So you have to sell it to a non-Jew. Mm-hmm. Usually you sell it for like $1. There's websites where you could just sell your chametz. You lock it up in a cabinet. If you know a non-Jew, you tell them, hey, very weird, can you give me $1 and I'll sell you my chametz? And, people who own, like, let's say like factories, like wine factories, will have to they can't own those factories during Passover. So usually you have a business partner who's not Jewish, so they work it out. But yeah, it's a weird tradition we have. And then after Passover, we buy it back. And then it becomes ours again. You have to nullify it.
I had a friend in college, shout out to Daniela. I would buy all her stuff for like $5.
You were the chametz boy.
I was. I would buy all her stuff for $5, and then she'd Venmo me back after Passover.
Yeah, you did her a huge service.
Yeah.
Oh wow, what an ally we have here.
I didn't fully understand what I was doing. She explained it to me, but I was like, okay, I mean, I'll do it because you asked me to, but I don't. So it's good to understand what I was doing.
So we clearly eat a lot of weird things on Passover. Like, we dip celery into salt water. We have bitter herbs on purpose. We dip things into a date, or it depends if you make like apple or what charoset to remind us of the red bricks, and everything's very symbolic and the foods are very odd. So Coptic Easter, do you guys have any traditions with food?
Yeah, we do, unfortunately. You'll understand why in a second. So around Coptic Easter is also this Egyptian national holiday called Sham el-Nessim. And it's actually an ancient Egyptian holiday that the Copts carried from the Pharaonic age into the Arab colonized age of Egypt. And it has since become a official holiday in Egypt, and people celebrate it. And it's because Easter represents new life, and it's usually around springtime. Sham el-Nessim also celebrates the emergence of spring and this new life that's being brought into the world. And Sham el-Nessim literally translates to the smelling of the breeze, because you get this new breeze around springtime. So a lot of Egyptians will celebrate it by going on picnics and going to sit in parks and to smell the breeze.
Well, this sounds lovely. Why did you say unfortunately?
Well, hold on, I'm getting to it. So we have also ancient Egyptian food called fasikh. Sometimes they call it ringa, depending on which part of Egypt you're from. But it is a dry, fermented, salted fish that's been buried in the desert for a couple months. So you take, I know, bear with me. Just go on this journey with me, please.
Okay.
So they take a fish, and there's literally generations of craft people that just do this for a living, create this meal for this holiday. So they take a fish and they salt the hell out of it, and then they put it in these bins locked and sealed, and then they bury it in the desert, and you come back around 6 or 7 months later and you unearth it, and you have this fermented, aged, salted fish, and you sell it, and people prepare it in different ways, but generally it's like fried in oil, and that's what you eat outside because it smells like hell. And you eat it outside on your picnics, and that's how you celebrate Coptic Easter and Sham el-Nessim.
Wow.
I am a fan, by the way. I am a fan of it. Some people really, really hate it. It does not smell good, and it's an acquired taste. It's salty and fermented fish, but I am a big fan.
Okay, I happen to like salty fermented fish. I went to Spain recently. I had boquerones. I had
Okay.
Really great Ashkenazi Jews. They have gefilte fish and they have pickled trout.
That's right.
I'm into it. I feel it.
Okay,
I'm all about this.
We gotta go to Astoria.
Yeah, we gotta go. But that's crazy interesting. Yeah, I didn't expect this. So I guess the smelling of the breeze is more like the smelling of the fish.
That's right. You're outside. There's no way you can eat this inside. It's horrific.
Wow. So usually, like when you go, is it all on the same day that people picnic?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it is
the
a
day
national
of.
holiday. People have off. It's Monday, and you go outside. You're usually parks are like sell tickets and they're sold out, and you just find a place to picnic with your family. And it's a very family oriented holiday, and you get together with your in-laws and your family, and you eat fasiq and sit outside and smell the breeze.
Oh, well, I love that. You know, while you're out there smelling the breeze, we'll be talking about Exodus and oppression.
That's right.
we'll be doing that. No, but Passover really it's a great holiday. It's an uplifting holiday. It's about, the holiday that made us a nation and made us a peoplehood. So it's always really fun to celebrate, especially if you're a Syrian Mexican Jew. Because as I spoke about, I think we talked about this at one point in, I think, the second episode. So shout back, check out the second episode. But Sephardic Jews can eat corn products on Passover, and Mexican Jews love Mexican food. So if you're a Sephardic Mexican Jew, you spend Passover making Mexican food. So we make tortillas all the way at the beginning of Passover, enough to last throughout all of Passover. And I do eat a lot of matzah, but really I'm having quesadillas for breakfast every day. So it's always a great time. I'm actually going to spend this Passover in Mexico with my family. So
Wow.
It's going to be, not even New Jersey tortillas. We're going to have Mexican homemade tortillas.
So what is the distinction that allows Sephardic Jews to have tortillas and grain that Ashkenazi Jews cannot have?
So there is a couple of different theories. The one that I got in high school was that in the time in Europe, they kept the grains in bins, and the bins were open, as opposed to in the Middle East, they kept it in sacks, and the sacks were closed shut. So when the wind would blow, if you were in Europe, there was a possibility of flour making its way into the rice or into the grains. So if you were to make the rice, you'd also accidentally be cooking flour, and then it would be rising.
Right.
As opposed to Sephardim, because they had the sacks closed, they didn't have that issue. So that's one of the many explanations that exist. But ultimately, Judaism's an ancient faith, so traditions, of course, are going to shift. So when you're having the conversation of you can't eat anything that rises, I can see the conversation of, well, when you put rice in water, it expands. So is that rising? And just to take a step back, the reason why we can't eat anything that rises is because when the Jews had to leave Egypt, they didn't really have any preparation. They were just told, we're leaving now. And they had dough made, but they didn't have time for the dough to rise, to bake it into bread. So they just put it in the sacks on their back. And with the hot sun, it was baked into these hard crackers. It was baked in 18 minutes. And that is why, to make kosher matzah, it cannot rise for more than 18 minutes. So there's a fun activity we do when we're little. They bring all the kids to like a room, and we all make this matzah dough, and they put this big timer on the wall, and they say, oh, it's been 18 minutes. It's not kosher for Passover anymore. And we're like, oh, darn. And it's a horrible matzah. The homemade matzah is horrible, so I don't recommend trying to make it. But that's why, you have the Sephardic Ashkenazi divide. But a weird thing that we do, there's a tradition in my Syrian Jewish family. I've spoken to other Syrian Jews. They don't have this tradition. I've spoken to other Mexican Jews. They also don't have this tradition. But we have a lamb shank bone. Ashkenazim I don't know if they have the actual bone itself or if they don't eat it, but we have a lamb shank symbolic of the Passover offerings that were brought before they left Egypt. And in my family, after we finish the Seder, the women take the bone, go under the stairs, and have to lick the bone in order to get a merit for marriage. It'll like, if you lick the bone, you'll get married. Like that's the typical.
No, it makes sense.
It makes sense. It checks out. But it's just so natural in my family. We'll be sitting there around the table and they're like, oh, like it's time. Like girls, go lick the bone. Yeah. And it's like, ah, got it. And like me and my sisters will go, we'll take the bone and we'll just sit there under the stairs licking the bone. But again, I've spoken to other people. They don't lick the bone, but I guess the equivalent is in other traditions. We have a big plate called a kara, and the single woman remove it from the table. And then that's the merit for marriage. And that's typical in Syrian households. So I guess maybe we just lick bones, everyone moves plates. But either way, Syrian girls will get married. It'll be wonderful. Yeah. But yeah, I guess I'm learning a lot about Coptic Easter. I'm learning, I hope I'm talking a lot about Passover, but if there's anything I got, it's that our foods are a little bit funky.
Yes,
so
right.
Can we come to an agreement that we'll be eating peeps?
Yeah. That's the neutral food. That's the sweet in the food.
That's the sweet in the foods. Yeah. Yep. The neutral.
Peeps it is.
Peeps it is. Happy holidays to everyone who's celebrating from the Americanish team. We hope to see you soon.